Welcome to Auto Off Topic. Happy New Year, Brad.
Happy New Year, Andrew.
Early Happy New Year. Not quite there, but we're getting there.
Well, I mean, this probably be the last episode we record before then, right?
I think so. Yeah, the way it'll
Yeah.
work out.
So if not, then we'll say it again when the time comes.
That's
And
right.
we'll probably say it again the first time after the new year, because then it truly will be the new year. But
We sure will.
at this moment in time, it's Happy New Year.
It is.
Or we could say Merry Christmas because it just passed.
Yeah, if you missed our Merry Christmas episode, Merry Christmas.
Yeah, there you go. And if you did, I don't know why you're listening to this one, because obviously you need to listen to 100% of our content.
That's right. Listen to it all. So to wrap up 2020, we're actually doing a thing for our diecast fans on the Instagram page. You're doing your top 5 castings.
Yeah, top 5 castings that came out in the year 2020. Not a new decor or a new, variant of, but an all new casting that came out this year. So it was a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
You have
Some
a lot of
stuff
favorites.
I have a lot of favorites, but some of the stuff I thought came out in 2020 actually came out in 2019.
Oh,
So yeah, and it's not super simple to figure out exactly when it came out either. Some of them are, but some of them are not. But I managed to save ourselves the embarrassment of posting one that came out in November of 19 first. So
okay.
just by the hair of it. I don't think I got one until 2020, so I assumed it was a 2020 casting, but it is not.
So you already posted it. So what was the first one? I don't want to give away the other ones.
Well, I didn't like put them in a particular order.
Okay.
I just went with the top 5 period because they're all, it's hard to pick which one's better than which one.
Okay, so they're not ranked. You're just posting them as you.
I'm just posting the top 5 of the year.
All right.
So I put up the Tomica Limited Vintage Mazda RX-7 FC3S, which is the redesign of the second gen RX-7. So like the second version, it's a little smoother, different taillights, body color moldings, but kind of a neat car to me because technically I own one. Just hasn't been touched in a half a decade, like other things in my life. So yeah, I was trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to put on there, and I didn't want to fill it with all Mitsubishis. And then I was going through things and realizing that a significant number of my top diecast this year have been Mitsubishis because it's been a very big Mitsubishi year for diecast. So Tomica, Tarmac Works, and Inno64 have all released Mitsubishi stuff this year. So unfortunately, I think the rest of the list, minus maybe one day, will be all Mitsubishi. So, oh well, it's my favorite, and there's no excuses other than it's my favorite. So that's what you get. If I thought about going top 10 to get just more variety in there, but I wanted to finish it out by the end of the week. So anyway, that's my new thing I like doing on the website is that Diecast Daily, AOT Diecast Daily. And then every time I do it, I put a little story thing in the featured stories, so they stay there, so you can go back through and see them over time. So they've gotten actually a pretty decent little interaction from some people, so people seem to like it. So I'll keep doing it. Yeah, doesn't take away from anything. It's only just additional,
No.
So keep doing it. Plus, I like taking pictures of toy cars because I'm a nerd. So it feeds into all sides.
All right, since we're coming up on a new year, we figured we'd do new car resolutions. We've done this in the past.
Yeah.
But we can also do sort of a Project Car State of the Union because I don't think we've done that in a while.
No, and I think beginning of the year is a perfect time to do it because we can talk about our resolution and then we can talk about our goals as part of our Project Car State of the Union.
Yeah, this past year, for Project Car has been a little tricky. Among other things, there are far worse things I could be complaining about than not working on my project car. So, but I remember, I feel like it was the beginning of this year, you were talking about picking up Little Lightning.
A little later into the year, I think, because I think it was March when I picked it up. Actually, you know what? It was the last thing I did before things changed.
Yeah.
So I remember driving to Nevada, having dinner with the previous owner of the truck, Bradley Brunell, who's been on the podcast here a few times. Um, Having dinner with him and his wife and Naomi, and discussing the fact that there was this weird thing in the news, and what's going to happen. And then by the time we got home, everybody was saying, "Well, you should probably just stay there." So if I hadn't done it that weekend, it probably would still be sitting in Nevada,
Right.
and I'd be better for it.
So where do you stand with that thing? Because I know you got kind of sidetracked. I know you were trying to get it done like within a couple of weeks.
So I guess we'll start into my project car State of the Union. We'll start with me first. So project car number 1, we'll talk about that truck. Truck came to me in March, or I came to it in March. I said a harsh 2-week window. If I didn't have the truck put back together to a state where it would run in 2 weeks, I was going to move it on because I didn't want to have this long-term project sitting over my head. So that was screwed up a little bit by the pandemic, because when the whole thing first happened, we weren't sure what was okay to do and to not do and where to go. And we had curfews here, and it was like, I don't want to get a fine to go work on my truck for being out after curfew. Like, I don't have an excuse, So a few weeks went by, and then I reset my 2-week clock after like a month. And within 2 weeks, I had stripped everything out of the truck that was unnecessary, cleaned up the motor, and put the whole thing back together to a point where it should have run. Unfortunately, there was more internal damage to the engine than originally thought, and it probably needs rings, because we could not make compression in cylinders 2 and 3. So we did everything possible to check it, to find out why we weren't making compression. As far as, the valves and everything there, and everything was fine. So it turns out that it's definitely rings. And at that point, the vehicle is here in my driveway. I had just moved into this new house, which again, 2020 has been weird, but we also managed to buy a house during it and take advantage of the 2020 pandemic interest rates. So that's a positive. But the negative there is I don't have a lot of tools here. So I lacked the amount of tools required to do to pull an engine and rebuild an engine in my yard. So I reset my clock and I said, I want to have this engine done, over this winter, because I'm slowly building up my arsenal of tools here. And if the car is not done over this winter, or at least not running and driving after this winter is over, then I'm just going to move it on. At this point, it's not costing me anything to have it sit here. I don't want to own it forever if it doesn't get put together. But like I said, I'm building my collection of tools in order to do this. So I'm almost there. I'm almost ready, and we'll get to it soon. And if we don't, and you can hold me to it, even though I said last time you could, but then circumstances changed. If the thing's not done by spring, not running and driving by spring, then it's going to move on. So it's not worth enough to sell right now, or it's not in the way. But I do need to get back on it and get it done. So that's where the truck sits. I have collected other stuff over the years too. Like there was a point before where I was going to sell it, and then somebody came through with a better fender and a better door and a better hood and a better grill. So I picked all that up.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah, there was a point where I was going to sell it, and more stuff came through. And then there was a point where I was going to sell it, and I got an engine stand. It's like, all right, well, this is actually motivating me to get the things I need to have in the garage anyway, so let's just keep it around.
So now, are you waiting on an engine hoist?
Engine hoist is next, yep.
Okay.
Yep, I should buy a better jack. I bought a small jack at first just to kind of get me through what I needed to do without spending huge money on a jack. Mm-hmm. It's good for doing oil changes. It's always good to have a second smaller jack around anyway for, when the car is jacked up and you're working on a suspension, you want a second jack to move a control arm. So I bought the smaller jack first. So I do need to buy a bigger jack too. In a pinch, I could use the jack that I have to get it up high enough and put it on stands, but I would like to buy a better jack too. Mm-hmm. But an engine hoist is next. I have been offered to borrow an engine hoist a few times, so I may go that route, but moving, it's not exactly simple either.
So that's what you're waiting on, is an engine hoist to get the engine out,
Essentially.
and then you're going to rebuild that engine.
Yeah.
Because we think the head is okay.
The head seems fine. There's no big cracks in it anywhere. I'm going to send it out, have it cleaned, and checked to make sure.
Yep.
That's going to be the first thing I do. And then I'm going to, the piston walls look good. So the plan is to try to do the home built budget build, but
right.
but not do it like wrong. I'm not just going to slam it back together. Like I want to do it the right way of doing it at home. So, I'll buy a ball hone and measure everything out right and buy new rings for it. And it's a 22R, man. Parts for it are so cheap and so readily available. So the parts thing isn't an issue. All new rings and bearings, it's like a $65 proposition. It's not a super expensive thing to do. So I think that's the plan. I've been keeping my eye out for a used Weber setup for it. Just because the original carb that's on it looks questionable at best. And I could eliminate a lot of the extra vacuum line garbage if I just put a Weber style carb on there.
We may have talked about it before, but yeah, I think potentially if you are able to just hone it and you confirm the size of the pistons, you may be able to just put new rings on them.
That's the hope.
And not have to do oversize or anything. Yeah.
Yep, that's the hope. Just put it back together and be into it for cheap, and have all my cost outlay be tools. I need the tools anyway forever. For the future, so I'll keep them forever. And then fast forward to the next project car a little bit, without going too far into it. There's a Starion here that eventually is going to get its driveline swapped into another car, so the engine hoist is certainly going to be useful items to have. So. That's where the Toyota stands. Once I can make it run and drive, I'll be happy. And if I don't do it by spring, then it moves out of here because there's other cars that I want to get to, and I don't want to just be sitting on everything. There are cars that are more important to me than that truck. And if I wanted to buy a small truck, I could probably, I turned down 3 or 4 in the past year because I have that one here that are in running condition for less than $1,000. Whether it be a Mazda or a Datsun or a Toyota or a Mitsubishi. So, cool. That's where we're at. There's the Toyota. I don't want to give up on it because I don't want to give up on it. But if it gets to that point, then it is what it is. And please, audience, and Andrew, and Naomi, if she listens to this episode, hold me to that springtime deadline. I don't want to.
People should keep asking you about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to go past it. So, hopefully, the whole social distancing / Corona thing is a little let up by before springtime, maybe, and some people might come over and lend a helping hand pulling the motor out. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
That would definitely help you along.
Yep.
All right. So, what else? You had the. You want to go with the Colt first? You've been doing a lot to that.
Well, let's move on to the Eclipse.
All right.
So let's just run through the cars that are here in Arizona, and then a quick touch on the stuff that's still in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So the Eclipse goals for 2021. That car has 2 features in it. One feature is I redo the suspension. It doesn't need it, but if I'm going to make like a back road kind of corner cover out of it, I want to do the same coil setup that's in your Talon. It's not tremendously expensive.
Nope.
And at the end of the day, it would probably cost about the same to do all new shocks and springs. So I might as well just do that.
And the only thing available for those is KYBs, so it's like pointless.
Yeah, exactly. So I may do that. If I do that, I'm also probably going to do wheels or send those out and have them redone because it's what lets the car down the most is the kind of the flaky paint finish on the wheels.
I would love it on Renault turbos, but that's just me.
The sizing is weird on those.
They have 16s.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the 16-inch ones though. They have a different look to them. I don't know. We'll see. I need to do a couple research things first. I probably wouldn't be buying a brand new set of wheels for it because that's money. So the other thing is,
And good copies would look good.
those I almost bought those when I bought the car actually. So another thing with that vehicle is it may be sold.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't want to say this is a resolution because I'm not sure it's the plan. But I hinted at it last. I actually talked about it last episode that my Cressida might be available for sale, and I do miss that car. So I think the best way to bring it back into my possession would be to sell the Eclipse. So that might be the story with that car. Also, the Cressida needs nothing. Like it's done, it's ready to go. The Eclipse doesn't need much either, but like I said, if I was going to keep it, I'd want to redo the suspension and redo the wheels and all that stuff. So the Cressida is literally, as I sold it, done, ready to go. So that's a thought. Sapporo is here. I haven't driven it much because it needs front brakes. If you remember October of 2018 when we went to Radwood, Philadelphia. Was it 18 or 17? It was 18, right?
18.
Okay. We went to Radwood, Philadelphia. Driving back, it was like, oh, the brakes are pretty bad. I did brakes on it before I drove it across country.
Yep.
But I just did a pad slap. And the problem is the front rotors are toasted. So there's a pretty nasty shimmy in the front end. And it's entirely caused by the rotors. So it's not the wheels, it's not the tires. You know, I've rotated everything around. I've checked all the bushings, all the ball joints. Everything is in nice, solid shape. But at certain speeds, there's enough rotational mass in those rotors, which are clearly warped because when you lightly put your foot in the brake, you can feel it pulsate. There's enough mass in those rotors, and they're warped, that it shakes the front end around a bit. So it needs rotors. There's nothing else that's been causing the shimmy. Everything else has been gone through. Like I said, it's all fresh enough that it's in good shape. The tires are brand new. The wheels are straight. You know, I've done everything I can to make the shimmy go away, and it's still there. It got really bad when I drove it across country. There was one particular night that we had a braking incident, and then immediately we're in like 6 inches of standing water. So I think there may have been a heat cycle there that just kind of wreaked havoc because it was right after that things got real bad. So need to look into that, but that's just kind of on the back burner. It does drive fine around town. It's just, again, 55 to 65 miles an hour is a nasty shimmy in the front.
They're also captured rotors, if I remember correctly, which is like not fun to do brakes on at all.
It's not fun, but it's no different than doing a set of wheel bearings.
Yeah, also not fun.
Yeah, just messy.
Yeah, it's just like, man, when they made that switch from captured rotors to just the way rotors are now on cars, it's so much easier to do brakes.
Yeah, well, the front-wheel drive setup didn't really lend itself to that style of captured rotor. There are a few, I think, that have it, but most front-wheel drive cars aren't that way, and most rear-wheel drive earlier cars are that way. So I've already done... I did them in the Cressida when I used to own it. The Colt has the same kind of rotors. I've done those. It's not fun, but it is what it is. So it's you refresh the wheel bearings when you're in there too. So usually you just need to repack them because they're pretty long wearing because of the design they are. They're not a sealed replaceable unit. You can take them apart and repack them. Mm-hmm. So that'll all get done. What else is left here? The Colt. I plan on continuing to make the small improvements that I've been making. There's the car runs good. I've been enjoying driving it. Everybody seems to like the car. I love the car. I've done the tail light this year. I've done some cleanup this year. I did the tachometer this year. What else have I done? The molding's back on the car this year. I recently put a Lancer badge on the trunk lid because the car is technically a Mitsubishi Lancer, not a Dodge Colt. So I found a other market Lancer badge and put it on the trunk lid. there was never the Dodge of them was never on the trunk lid since I owned it anyway, so may as well put that on there. That car needs suspension as well. You know, the previous owner to me cut the springs in the front and has 2-inch lowering blocks in the rear. I probably won't change the lowering blocks, but I'll probably do new shocks in the rear because they're just a standard, you know, by length kind of shock absorber. And there's a company in Australia that King Springs, they make coils for the front of the car.
Oh,
That do a 2-inch drop
okay.
for like $180. There's another company in Australia that does camber plates that go in place of the stock top hats. And I can get I forget what car it's out of, but there's a strut insert from another vehicle that you just get a machined spacer put in the bottom of the strut housing. And you put in, you know, the insert from this other vehicle. It's got a shorter stroke to match the 2-inch shorter springs.
Oh, there you go.
So that all around. And there's a company that makes a kind of a universal panhard bar for the back to stop the left-right movement. So that's all in the cards for that car this year. So it's not, you know, right away. It's, you know, probably third priority or so. But I think that setup of stuff will change that car entirely and make it a much better handling car than it is. It's already a fun car to toss around, but the alignment's a little off, and it could use some fine tuning. And I just don't want to do the fine tuning until I replace everything. Oh, and I need to do brake lines in it too. Brake lines are starting to look a little questionable, and you know, being out here in the dry desert, they're not going to get any better. That's for sure. So there's also a company in Australia that does full stainless lines for the car, so I'll be able to improve that car from the bottom up is the plan. I'm actually a little perturbed because there was an engine I tried to buy last week for it. Not that it needs an engine, but this was a JDM motor from a Galant GTO with the factory twin carb setup.
Yeah.
But the guy's not willing to ship anything. So
Where the heck is he?
he's in the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
It severely limits your market for that engine.
especially a weird, obscure thing like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that it's cheap enough that somebody else is going to buy it and just take the Webers off. Or the Webers, the the Solexes or whatever the factory twin carbs are for the car. Mm-hmm. Whoever buys it is just going to buy it, take those off, throw the manifold, and the engine in the trash. Yeah. So because it's cheap enough that would be the case. So whatever. I told him I'd pay him his asking price for the full engine and take the manifold off and send me the manifold and carbs myself. You know, but he's not interested in helping anybody out at all. It just is what it is. Because I think a twin carb setup on that would be neat, and if it was the factory twin carb setup, it'd be even cooler.
Yeah, weird.
So, like I said, it was $500. It wasn't going to be like the end of the day. It's a good price for a set of twin carbs, but
yeah.
Oh well, his loss and mine, I guess. So that's the Colt. The eventual plan with that is to get it on. You know, our friends over at DWA have their rallies up in the mountains in California. The plan is to get it set up enough to go run, one or two of those, and maybe some of the vintage car track days that are popping up in the Southwest here. So, be fun, just a little, not a race car by any means, but just a car I can go out and participate in some events with. All right, what's next? Starion is here.
Yep.
Starion runs as is. We need to drop the tank out of it, fix where the fuel leak is, which is just the filler neck. That's easy enough to kludge something together that works.
Just the filler neck, or is it the sending?
It's the filler neck.
You shouldn't need to drop the tank to the filler neck.
Okay, I haven't looked closely enough to how to fix anything on it, but I was thinking of dropping the tank through the filler neck just to...
Usually it should be just the metal filler piece at the body and then a rubber hose to the tank.
The problem is that I don't think the part's available readily.
They aren't anymore.
I was going to kind of kludge something together, and that was going to require removing the tank.
Well, so on a Galant VR4, the original ones are NLA. I believe I had the last one. I ordered it and held on to it until I swapped my tank.
Right.
So I put a brand new one in. But it's literally like an oversized radiator hose. And I know some people in the Galant VR4 community have just taken radiator hoses. There's one that fits.
Right.
And just put them together. And
Well, I need to look closer at it. I haven't really looked at the. I'm not at the point where I'm ready to do it yet because I've been working on the Colt and working on the other stuff and working on stuff around here.
because the only other thing would be from the actual top of the tank would be rotted.
No, it's just from what I can see, it's just the filler neck. I'm not 100% positive because I haven't done a full investigation on it, but from what I can see so far, it's only leaking from that top right corner and only when the tank is over full. So once the fuel in the filler neck drains down at the tank, that half a gallon that sits in the bottom of that neck, then there's no fuel leaking out of the car anymore. So
yeah, I was gonna say, because when we got the pump running, there was no fuel coming out of
there was no fuel leaking anywhere, and there was no fuel smell.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I filled the car up that it was leaking. So that's my working theory, and looking at where it was wet, that's what I'm thinking. But again, I probably should have dropped the tank just to kind of investigate and make sure everything's fine. It's literally only 6 bolts in the bottom of the car, and they look like they're in decent shape. If you remember when we looked at it, we're under the car, we're like, those don't actually look that bad. So it shouldn't be a big deal to drop it. But anyway, the plan with the car is to eventually swap everything over to a better shell. I have a better shell, technically. It was given to me by a friend of the show. It's still in his yard with all his other stuff, so it's not bothering him that it's there. The problem is it's an automatic car. Normally I wouldn't care if it was, most vehicles, because I'd just be swapping everything over anyway, the dash and harness and everything at once. And the only difference, on most cars would be some minor modifications to the firewall. But on Starion's, the Aisin transmission that was available in the automatics, probably the same one in your Montero, is super wide. So the automatic cars have a wider transmission tunnel. So I'm not sure what that does to pedal placement or the foot box where the pedals go, if there's enough room to run the factory clutch, brake, and accelerator pedal setup, or if there's not enough room and it's not going to work. So the other thought is you could cut the tunnel out of my car and move it over to that car, but part of the reason I'm replacing this car is because the floors and everything are all rotted. So cutting the tunnel out probably isn't the best plan. Getting away from doing body work is what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see. I need to do a little more research. I should probably just post a question on like the Starion Facebook groups and say, hey, what's involved in a auto to manual swap as far as the transmission tunnel goes? Because otherwise, everything else about this car is perfect. It's also an 84. So any weird little things shouldn't be an issue. It's the same year car. It's pin straight. There's no rust. There's no dings. There's no dents. So the interior is wasted, but my interior is good. So it's going to be a nice little swap everything over kind of story. So we'll see what happens. That's kind of a back burner thing because there's no visual safety inspections here in Phoenix. So the rust spots in the car are fine. The car does run and drive. Once I get that gas tank scenario figured out, I can just kind of go through it in the car as it is now, so that when it comes time to take it out and swap it into a new shell, it should just bolt in and drive away. So that's it for the Arizona cars. Massachusetts cars. The Galant is going on the market because it just is. It's been sitting for so long. I live 3,000 miles away from it. I would love to finish it and drive it, but I think that we have to get to a point where we say, let's relax here a little bit. Let's try to cut out the total number of cars hanging over my head, because part of my problem is there's so many cars hanging over my head that it's hard to concentrate. So the car's going to go on the market. I'm not going to give it away. I don't need to sell it. Kind of that whole story.
I know what I got.
Yeah, exactly. So if it doesn't sell by the next time that I'm out there, or somebody out there can help me out with a engine assembly, or I get out there and build the engine myself, then so be it. We'll just put it together next time I'm out there for a long enough period of time to build the engine. So it's we'll call it soft for sale. I do have a potentially interested buyer. I need to get some pictures for him, but we'll see what happens. Um, Everything else in Massachusetts is, but the Camaro is just sitting in Massachusetts until I have a garage built out here because I don't want to park it in the sun here. The NSU, same story. What else is out there, Andrew? The white RX-7.
Yep.
That's, I don't think about that car much. I'm sure the tan Colt will eventually just be parted out, and the motorcycle probably just sold.
Yep.
So,
what about the low mileage Colt?
Oh, that's coming out here eventually.
Okay.
The next time I have money to ship a car, that's coming out here.
All right. Low mileage Colt.
So.
Gone. RIP 2020. Raider. Not RIP. It's getting restored, I think.
Yeah. As far as I know, I haven't heard from him, but
yeah,
we're Facebook friends, so I can reach out to him once in a while and check on it. So that's that's gone from us, from our queue, our quiver of vehicles. Did we sell anything else this year?
I mean, we can get to my stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, automotive resolutions for me for that fleet in 2021. The biggest things are getting the Colt suspension sorted and getting the truck running.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest hurdles I think to overcome. And then the low mile Colt, when it gets out here, that's an easy one to make run. It's already been it's already stumbled and farted to life. It hasn't been just gone through and fixed. So everything in that car works. Just needs to be gas needs to be dumped out of it. So that is what it is. So yeah, that's the what do you call it? The project car resolutions are, those are the two big ones.
Cool.
Hold me to those more than anything else. Anything else that happens is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Part of the that's part of the appeal of the podcast here is that people ask you about things now.
Yeah, they keep you a little bit more, I guess, honest on them. Oh, the big thing out here is to build a garage in 2021. So
yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, that will be
because it's not as expensive as you thought it would be.
Significantly less money than it would cost in Massachusetts,
and also less money to get all the things that you want.
Yeah, and nothing fancy. We're probably going metal building, but it's falling together. Looking at the way the plant's planning out, so that will be a whole big update scenario down the road, and that's a plan is for 2021.
Well, see, it's funny. I think it's definitely a lot easier out there to do like a metal building or a metal pole barn than it is here. For whatever reason, they're either not super like legal for code, maybe, I don't know, or it's just the way for the weather we need to have stick built wood.
One of the big, well, no, metal buildings do exist in Massachusetts. One of the big sticking points in Massachusetts is how thick the concrete base has to be, the pad that you put it on.
Well, it has to go down to the frost. Not the middle part, but the walls that your building is sitting on has to go down something like 6 feet minimum.
And they say that all of it should. So the problem is not 6 feet, but it's pretty far down. The problem is the cost associated with pouring a concrete pad that's deep enough is significantly more expensive than pouring a concrete pad out here because we don't get that frosted ground. So that's a huge cost savings alone right there. Like we're looking at like a 24 by 30 or a 30 by 30, and some of the concrete pad quotes that we've talked about are less than $2,500.
Well, yeah, like the concrete floor when my dad built his garage, like the sides go down deep enough for frost, but then the floor itself is maybe half a foot thick.
Well, the sides,
including the the gravel.
The sides on yours are also load bearing, which is because it's a stick and wood kind of build.
Yeah.
So I'm completely talking out my butt on this stuff. I don't know construction stuff, so I just know what I've been researching and figuring out, that concrete pads here are easier and they're cheaper.
Yes, because you don't have a frost, so they don't have to go down as deep.
And as
Because
far as
basically, what they don't want, I think, is if the ground freezes, it being pushed up. Literally a frost heave.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which would obviously compromise the building.
Yeah.
Which you don't want. So, but literally, I'm thinking here that I'll be into something. But the problem is, I don't want to say a number now and be wrong about it. But no matter what it is, the biggest hurdle is going to be financing, figuring out how to get that done the right way. Because I'm not sure exactly how a construction loan works on something like that. I just need to do a little bit more research. But whether it's $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, that's the kind of money I don't just have in my pocket to pay out. So financing is going to be involved, and once that hurdle is cleared, then there's not much stopping it from happening. So that's the big plan for this year.
Yeah, and then your only other thing will be just checking with your lift installer how thick they want the pad.
Yep.
Where the lift goes, because they can put in extra material there.
Yep.
You don't have to do the whole thing.
The plan is to go, like I said, probably 30 wide. And in 30 wide, you can do 2 4-posts and a 2-post.
Mm-hmm.
You get enough parking in there for 5 or 6 cars, which is ideal because I have too many cars.
Yeah, and then with a metal building, you do a vaulted ceiling.
Yep, with the peak in the mid, like the peak from left to right, so that the middle section is highest.
And then if you ever, if you really wanted to, I've seen people do it. Inside of that, you could build a mezzanine out of wood with stairs or something if you wanted extra storage space up top.
Yeah, you could. The problem with extra storage up top and Phoenix is heat rises. So a real hot area up there. Attics here are really hot. I've been doing a bunch of research too into what kind of insulation to use, because a metal building here in Phoenix in the summertime is going to be hot. So you want to insulate it. I want to put full wall board. I want to make it look like a finished building inside. And been doing some research into the mini split systems as far as air conditioning goes.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting technology out there now, which I'm, again, just the very base of learning about. So if I'm completely wrong and off base, we'll find out when I start doing quotes. But there's some interesting technology I've been finding out about running a mini split off of, not on your grid, just having its own solar energy, just to run it. So during the day, it keeps it, when the sun's at its peak, it stays temperate inside, which is obviously good for the vehicles and anything you store in there.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. It's all, like I said, it's all, at this moment in time, it's all pipe dreams. And step number 1 is just figuring out the basics and getting the plans and getting the right company to help me do it. So I have the advantage of a couple of people out here that I know have built them themselves. And one guy had one recently done by a company. So we'll see where we're at, but one day at a time. That's the biggest resolution for this year. So what is your Project Car State of the Union, Andrew?
Well, we were just talking about cars we sold in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like many years ago, but it was only like January 2020 I did sell the WRX.
Wow, that was only this year, huh?
Yeah, because I literally bought and picked up the Volkswagen like a year ago today, or I bought it like a year ago today, and I picked it up on New Year's Eve, and then within like a week in January, I had sold the WRX. So that was gone. It only reminds me because I continue to get the Takata airbag recall for it, even though I've called them and told them I don't own the vehicle anymore.
Yeah, it happens for a while once you sold the car.
Which apparently the car had the passenger side done, and now the driver's side is available.
So whoever owns that car, go get it done.
Yeah. So yeah, that car's been gone, and like the big thing I wanted to get done this year, and I did it towards the end of the year, was fix the flex pipe on the Galant.
Okay.
I also added a new blow-off valve to it. I think I've talked about,
Yep.
and that was pretty much it. I really wanted to do that, and one thing I would like to do to that car, and I keep talking about it like I feels like every year, I really need to do the trim, the black trim. It just needs to be refreshed. It's
Yes.
not super complicated or super involved.
It is
Maybe
not.
it's super involved. I do have to do a lot of masking and some sanding.
It's not even that much masking. It's more sanding than anything else.
Yeah, because it's not even that it's worn down and faded. It's that somebody touched it up before and left like spray paint marks and like runs in it where you can see where they just like held the spray paint can.
Yeah, they just did it very poorly.
Yeah. So that needs to be scuffed up, smoothed out. I was looking into, I do have the Duplicolor stuff for it. But for another project and I'll get to that, I was looking at the SEM Trim Black,
Yep.
SEM. I was like, well, maybe I'll just get a couple cans of that because it's probably a lot better.
It's really nice, and it gives that factory semi-gloss finish perfectly.
Yeah, you can get different versions of black too. You can get like satin gloss.
Yep.
I was like, that's
Yeah.
good to know for different projects.
Yeah, it's a very good product. I've used it before.
Yeah.
Actually, the back bumper on the Raider was SEM trim black.
Okay. Yeah, so that's probably the big thing. I would like to figure out how or who to have fix the dash. And it would be nice to have the passenger side seat cover restitched. And then just do a really nice cleaning and conditioning the leather because it's not in bad shape other than where its passenger seat is ripped. But it could use a really good cleaning and conditioning.
Yeah,
I just haven't.
I was watching a recent, not a recent episode. I don't remember what episode it was of Wheeler Dealers where they did a tan interior, and they
we talked about that in the 3000 GT.
Oh, that's it was 3000 GT. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
having a shop that does that kind of work, do that for you, would bring that car to a whole different level. I think
It almost doesn't even need that because the black leather looks really good. It's not worn or faded, but it is hard. It needs
Yeah, so
good
I
cleaning.
just think to have a shop do it because it's one of those things that
Yeah.
the best way to fix that is to take the seats apart and soak them. And I think that taking those seats apart because of how hard they are, they would just tear. So
Well, I'm wondering if there's a decent product I can do with it in the vehicle. If there's better stuff than like a Lexol. That's like the brand name everybody knows.
yeah,
I feel like there's probably better stuff in like a Chemical Guys or an MO NYC version of a product or something that would be good enough to clean it and condition it. I just have to research that.
yeah, we don't really know many detail guys, so to speak. That's never really been our side of the thing because we play with these older cars, and they're not cars that generally go to a professional detailer.
Yeah,
We're just not in that scene.
it would even make sense, like, if I scrubbed it with a good whatever leather cleaner it is, and then maybe you kiss it, not even with a heat gun, but with like a hair dryer to just warm it, and then like put your leather cream into it, and maybe it would like open up the pores and like soak it in or something.
Yeah, without giving bad advice, I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, it's something I got to look into. So
That would make a big difference in that car.
Yeah, there's not really a whole heck of a lot that I need to do that car. Luckily, I hustled a lot towards the end of 18 and through 19 to make sure everything was working well because I knew that we were going to have a kid in 2020.
Right.
So it feels pretty good to not have a ton of car projects hanging over me because I also knew we were going to do a bunch of house stuff.
Right, which is part of the reason that like your big project this year was a flex pipe. Like,
yeah,
because you spent so much time building a kitchen and doing flooring in your dining room and all this other stuff that was just, it takes priority because it's your house.
Yeah. So again, with the Galant, it's just like minor detail stuff now. And maybe I was thinking about, we'll see. It depends on budget. I might change the wheels again just to be something different.
Well, now you'll have 3 sets of wheels for the car.
Yeah. So what? It's like a pair of shoes. Change them out.
Well, if I keep my car, maybe I'll buy one set from you.
Maybe. And the Talon, you didn't get to do much of that at all that I wanted to do. I really wanted to put the front mount intercooler in that I have.
Year 5.
Yeah. Hopefully that's a goal for the spring to try to get to that.
Well, by springtime, your son will be able to help you install it, right?
Yeah, the way he's growing, it seems like it. I'll be teaching him to drive in the fall.
Probably.
It's that can be done. There's that's the other thing. So I have the rear. I bought this in 2017. I've got the rear subframe with poly bushings in it, and I've got a white line rear bar for it. And I'd really like to finish rebuilding that with the adjustable pieces. I have to buy those and put in the solid toe things for the lower trailing arms, so you don't get the active toe anymore. And it can all the alignment can be locked, and it doesn't change when you go into a corner. Mm-hmm. So I would like to put that in, and it's got the 4-bolt diff. So I think that's entirely a possibility for 2021.
Well, you can build most of that in your garage and then just go over to your dad's, their lift is, and do the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it's probably easier to swap that subframe without a lift.
It probably is. It's in the garage, so every now and then I go over to it. It was only minimally rusted. I'll just spray Deep Creep on the camber bolts that are holding it together every now and then.
Yep.
And so hopefully when it's time to go take it apart, they just come right apart.
Fall apart.
That's definitely in there. There's not really much else. I'd like to do different seats in that car. Just like Acetacobos or something, or vintage Recaros. Something with a cool pattern. That'd be really sweet. Otherwise that car's pretty well set up.
Your cars are also almost done. It's time for you to get a project car.
Yeah, it would be. I'm definitely looking for one. We've talked about it. Sort of keep my eyes out. It has to be the right car. It's a specific car that I want. Is a 142 Volvo, but it needs to be the right car. I definitely don't want one that's all rotted out, because I don't want to do any body work. I don't want one that, apparently I looked into it, the auto to manual swap is very easy if a nice auto was to come up for a reasonable price. It's not very complicated at all.
And the parts are simple to get too, because a transmission up through a 240 works, correct?
Something like that.
Oh.
The Volvo guys know. There's a bunch of Volvo guys in the Rochester area. They run the Drivers Imperfect classic cars.
Yep.
And I'd asked on their page because one had popped up, and they were like, "Oh yeah, you do this and this." It seemed pretty straightforward. So, but yeah, I'm looking for the right car, because the ones that seemingly pop up on the East Coast, they're not in that great a shape, and people seem to want a lot of money for them, which to me doesn't seem worth it. I don't want to compromise on it, because
you don't need to buy a car, so you might as well wait for the right one.
Yeah. So, I mean, to be quite honest, in my younger days, I definitely impulse bought project cars.
Yeah, my younger days too, March of this year.
Yeah. So I'm trying not to impulse buy a project car that I don't actually need. So I want to make sure it's good enough that it can be driven fairly quickly.
Yep.
And then just do little things. But that'd be the ideal. But getting back to the stuff I actually have, the Montero, they got quite a few upgrades. I got rock sliders for it. I did the rear lift springs. It's still ticking. My dad and I seem to have arrived that we think it is a worn camshaft on the passenger side head.
Okay.
Because it seems consistent with a valve tick. But it has new lifters. But if the camshaft is worn, it's got too much slop in it, and maybe that lifter can't make up for it.
It does have a lot of miles on it.
Yeah. So I've literally driven it probably 15,000 miles that way, and it doesn't seem to care, but it's really just annoying.
Yes.
So I think our plan in the spring is to at minimum pull that valve cover and inspect the camshaft.
Well, the beauty of it is you have a full engine block sitting there waiting to go. So
Yeah, but if I can get away with not even pulling the engine out of the truck and just
Yep.
putting a camshaft in it, that'd be way easier.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. But I also bought, or I didn't buy it, I ordered it. You pay for it when they do the test. Is one of those Blackstone oil kits.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm curious, when I drain the oil out next, I'll send it to them. Maybe if you can tell them that the issues you're having, they can look for those type of metals.
I know our friend Ron just did that in his Starion to kind of get a update of what's going on with his engine, and they gave a pretty comprehensive report and confirmed, some things that he thought and helped him feel better about some other things.
Yeah, because they'll tell you like, all right, there's this type of brass in there. That means your bearings, or there's coolant present. Like it's really quite interesting. So I'll probably do that in the spring when I change the oil.
Yeah, I was thinking of getting that done with all the runners and probably also the Starion before I swap the driveline to another car.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting idea. Definitely a real nerdy thing to do, but interesting.
It's nerdy, but it also might save you a ton of money in the future.
It's true.
It's true. Like, it's nerdy but necessary.
Yeah. So definitely doing that, and then as a little Christmas gift to myself and a little more off-roady bling, glamour mod, I bought a eBay snorkel for the truck.
Nice.
It's like a knockoff probably of an ARB or something. But I like this one because it didn't say, some of them come molded with Piero in them. This one's just plain.
Nice.
Just textured black plastic. The template left a little bit, like it's not super accurate. I'm going to have to really pay attention to lining it up. I think I'm going to do a video on it.
Just a paper circle they sent you?
No, it's almost the length of the fender, but not exactly the length of the fender. So you don't know where exactly to line it up.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to do like blue tape over the whole fender, tape this thing down, line it up very carefully, make measurements, measure like 4 times,
cut twice,
and then drill my holes. And then by having the blue tape, once I drill my holes, I can spray some paint over them so the raw edge will have paint on it.
Right. Won't rust away.
Yeah.
Well, snorkels look very purposeful, so it's neat.
Yeah, and then that's what I was talking about, the SEM paint. So it's just raw black textured plastic, and I don't know how it's going to hold up to the UV, so I don't want to have this like gray looking snorkel after like a year. So I think before I even put it on, I'm just going to clean it up, the mold release off of it, and paint it with the SEM satin black.
Yep, it's probably much better that way. That SEM stuff, part of the reason I like that SEM stuff for flat black parts on the outside of the car is that it does have UV protection in it, whereas like a Krylon does not.
Yeah, that's why I was going to use that stuff.
Yep.
So it'll protect it and it'll look black. So that'll be pretty cool. And then, I don't know, I'll just keep driving it. I have got the 80D bumper I need to weld up and put on there.
Correct. Which is a neat piece to see all put on the vehicle.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe I was thinking, I think we talked about before, some gradient, like dark brown, like stripes in the hood or something, just to like hide the clear coat peel.
Yep, I like it.
And maybe a white roof if I'm getting really
ambitious
cheeky with it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So those are good plans for the year.
Yeah, and that's all a lot of stuff that I can just do over here too, in my garage. I don't have to.
Well, plus I know there's some plans for stuff in your dad's garage too. Like I know you got to work on your mom's Beetle a little bit, and
yeah. So here's the thing with her Beetle. It came from Arizona in 19.
I think it was late 19.
No, spring of 19.
Okay.
One of us, either it was you or I, found it on Facebook Marketplace. We sent you over to look at it. You talked to the guy. He was basically selling it because he wasn't driving it a lot, I think.
That was part of the plan. He was a collector. He had lots of stuff, and
Yeah.
he wanted to, thin down the collection of things he uses more than anything else.
So it's a really nice car. My mom got it here, and she drove the crap out of it in 2019 all over town, enjoying it. Started driving it, and this spring it started acting kind of funny, like it was starving for fuel. So my dad was like, "Oh, I wonder if the electric fuel pump's going bad." And we were like, I guess so. So it's super easy to change. It's right there on the bottom of the car. So he just swapped the filter, ran all right for a little bit, and then it started doing the same thing. And I'm like, it really sounds like it's starving for fuel. He's like, yeah, I think you're right. So he had pulled off the lines and had like blown compressed air in there with the gas cap off, and he heard it go like spop, and like so like something was stuck in the pickup tube in the tank.
Okay,
Maybe it's from
I
sitting or like
found its way to there.
some sort of varnish or gum, and blew it out of there. Car ran great, but then it started sputtering again, so it must have found its way back into there. So we got to pull the tank. Not that big a deal. It comes right out of the frunk.
The beauty of a Beetle is pretty much anything in that car comes apart within a couple hours. So
Yeah, so we'll have to pull the tank, clean it, and then because the car sat for so long, and then my mom started driving it a lot. I mean, this is pretty typical of an air-cooled car. The engine needs a reseal after so much time and miles. It's just the design of the air-cooled engine. So it's leaking quite a bit of oil, and it's also leaking from the transaxle because I think we think the breather was clogged for a while because there was a lot of like Arizona dust and dirt underneath it.
well, that's what happened with the taillight. We thought you had a dim taillight. It turned out it was just full of dirt.
Yeah. So maybe the guy lived in a dirt road or something. Who knows? So yeah, it kind of like ruined all the seals. Transaxle seals it's just leaking gear oil, and we don't want to ruin the transmission by having it run out of gear oil or something. Or it generally just kind of makes a mess when it's parked in the garage too.
Yeah, well, that's probably your first spring project anyway, because your mom loves driving the car, so it wouldn't be good to have it down for a while. Maybe even start working on that before spring.
Yeah, as soon as we see the forecast is like no more snow, we can probably start pulling the engine and transaxle out of that.
Yep.
Refresh everything. If I'm willing to bet, we'll probably just throw a clutch in it because
it's apart.
Take it apart. Just throw a clutch in it.
100%.
I mean, a stock Beetle clutch is probably $10, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not very expensive, that's for sure.
No. So yeah, we'll have to do that, and then the Cadillac that we refurbished in 2019 to get it running again. I find it took like to the end of the summer of 2019. I ordered the plastics that go behind the impact bumpers, the gap fillers that have disintegrated the original ones. They were like fiberglass or something.
Yeah, the weird.
Or like urethane, and they just shattered after a while. Yeah.
The pliability goes away from them.
Yeah, so I have the replicas, and they're like a harder plastic. But they need to be like scuffed and sanded and painted matching white. And I wanted to get to that this summer. I just didn't. We're just doing house stuff. Plus, I couldn't take the car anywhere. So it was like, what's the big deal? Get to it later.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd like to do that.
Actually, I
paint them myself. I don't think I need to have somebody paint them.
Are they small enough that a color matched rattle can will do pretty well?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do.
I need to have you send me that link actually for the company that sells those, if you think about it, because I was helping a family friend out here refurbish his 77 Cadillac.
So it was a company out of Florida that specialized in these things, but I found them via eBay.
Okay.
And it was a little dicey because they were they communicated with me a lot, but I did order them, and unlike a lot of things you order on eBay, they didn't have them.
Oh, they made to order?
They made them. They were made to order. So I ordered them like June, and they didn't show up till like August. I kept checking in with them because I didn't want the sometimes you order stuff on eBay, and if it there's a certain limit where like PayPal hits like 40 days or something, then you can't like file a claim, which I think they've extended it longer lately. But I just like kept emailing them like every couple of weeks, like, oh, just checking in, but they were real. They showed up. So
Was it Bobby Ward? His name?
I don't know. I'll find it for you later.
Yeah, I'm helping out a family friend out here with a '77 Coupe de Ville. That's a really nice car, but unfortunately out here, obviously the bumper fillers are completely missing. So
yeah, that's what lets down these like 70s cars is these bumper fillers.
yeah.
So, because otherwise the car is literally perfect.
Yeah, same with this one. It's pretty perfect. It's like a 70,000 mile,
Yeah.
Coupe de Ville with a mint interior, and it actually reminds me a lot. I don't know if you remember my mom's '81,
The blue one?
blue on blue. Yeah,
Yeah.
the interior is identical. It's the same interior, same dashboard, same colors, same 8-track player hidden in the FM dial. Like
Yeah.
it's the same car, but he's building a lowrider. And so I was over there the other day, kind of going over some stuff, kind of project car consultant life,
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring out where the best place to go first is and what we're gonna do. And so
Yeah, and then my dad did want to update the AC in that car because it'd be nice to not sweat to death on the leather seats. So
yep,
which I guess requires that car had a specific type of compressor that's old and outdated, and then you switch it to an updated compressor, and then you have to have the line modified to fit. And my dad was a little concerned about it. He's like, "Well, it's not going to be original anymore." I'm like, "It doesn't matter."
yeah,
I'm like,
it makes the car more enjoyable. It's fine.
it makes it. It's still, unless you were going to like a concourse, it doesn't matter because
there are certain things that are a shame to change, and there are certain things that it just doesn't matter.
if you put that car in bring a trailer and were to sell it, maybe some commenter would be upset, but the person who wants to buy it is going to be happy that it has working air conditioning that's updated.
Exactly, especially it's a car that you only use in the summertime.
Yeah.
Summers in Massachusetts are 95 degrees with a relative humidity of 195%. So it'd be nice to have nice cold air conditioning.
Exactly. So that's all I got for like Project Car State of the Union and New Year's resolutions for cars.
Excellent. So what parts of your resolution? What's the stuff we got to hold you to?
How about doing the trim on the Galant windows?
Okay.
Because I think that's pretty attainable.
I think I've offered to do that for you before.
I think so. They just didn't get to it. Fixing the engine tick on the Montero would be nice.
Okay. Well,
the manifolds are leaking too. I got to figure that out. Maybe swap the manifolds.
Well, when you're doing the camshaft, you can probably do that.
Yeah. I just don't want to have trouble when I go get a sticker for it with the exhaust leaking.
Yep.
Because that's a pain. But
those all sound like pretty solid ideas. Obviously, there's the wild card of who knows what 2021 will bring. Not only for the world, but for our cars. You could fall upon a car that's not a Volvo 142 and be like, well, might as well buy that and try that. Or you might fall apart a Volvo and go, hey, there's the Volvo I'm looking for. Mm-hmm. I might come across something out here that one of us needs to own and one of us needs to own it. Who knows?
Yeah.
I had I had a dream the other night that you bought a Porsche 924. So I think it's because I was reading an article about them being, not cheap for much longer. And
so one thing for the podcast, I started to work on a website for us. I got busy. I haven't had a chance to continue to work on it. We are working on it.
And I started to work on a collaboration with t-shirts with a guy.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, I do have keychains that we will figure out how we want to sell them. I ordered them January of 2019. They were delayed because of COVID, because they came out of China.
Right.
They've been sitting in my garage for 8 months.
So they've off-gassed the COVID then.
Yeah, they are perfectly safe.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool looking. I've sent you some. They're like like rubber keychains that are almost like 3D-ish.
Yeah, they're really neat.
Of our logo. They came out really cool. because they even captured like the little lines in our letters. So they're pretty darn cool. I just got to figure out how we want to sell them, and we might bundle them with like stickers and stuff.
Yeah, wait till the t-shirt thing comes through.
Yeah,
we can figure out something.
But ideally, I really would like to launch our actual website so that we can have blog posts, and you can do a diecast blog, and we can have more car shoots and stuff like that. Just we just have to get to work on it. Maybe some Saturday or Sunday or something we can do like a collaboration call. We'll figure it out.
Sure. And we both already have tons of content backed up in our memory cards, so should be able to do that. It'll be nice to have something we can direct people to as well when they want to know what it is that we do.
Exactly.
And that would probably give us more access to, shooting more cars and doing more content and going from there. So excellent.
Anything else?
I don't think so, Andrew. I think that's pretty much it for me. I don't have a lot to contribute beyond that because I haven't been working on anything because of the holidays, and we'll see what happens in the near future. Hopefully some more Project Car updates and events to talk about. And I did want to remind you that we need to figure out how to get you a account for Motor Trend, because there's a bunch of new stuff coming out there that's making it worth it. So just wanted to remind you that there's
so many streaming services.
Well, I know, but
I don't want to pay for them all.
We'll figure it out.
Man, if only there was a service that gave me all these channels for one price.
Well, the Motor Trend app I just watched a 3-part docu-series on the Motor Trend Riverside 500.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into it now because the episode's going long, but if you have the Motor Trend streaming service, watch that. It's really good. It's narrated by David Freiberger, and it's all about the history of the Riverside Motor Trend 500. Amazing series.
Cool. All right. So we like to wish you and yours a happy new year. You can follow us on Auto Off Topic Podcast on Facebook, Auto Off Topic on Twitter, Auto Off Topic on Instagram, where you can see Brad's diecast stories that he's posting. And you can follow me on Instagram, Raced in Anger. And Brad, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at TSISS350. I did log into Twitter the other day. And I failed miserably because apparently I have an old account tied to my email, and finding a password is becoming an issue. So I got to figure that out, but it will just be my name at the Twitter account as well. So just Brad DeSantis.
Oh, yes. I am also on Twitter. It's Raced in Anger. And then I just have my screen name as Andrew Auto Off Topic.
Yeah, mine will probably be the same eventually, but I got to figure that out. I got to get in contact with somebody at Twitter. Fix my account.
All right, cool. So as always, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.